On this, our first episode of Going Dork Reviews, we discuss the HBO series Lovecraft Country. We'll be diving into the first episode with musician and Going Dork theme song creator Sebastian Arnold. All this and more on
Pop up in our spaceship, we got Sasquatch and Llama. One's a little shy, but the other's a real drama. Pinball, wizard, pinging all planets at most. Another job done, hit the lights, close the blinds. Find a remote, let them know it's true crime, space fly shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever Going Dork Reviews episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do appreciate it. This is going to be sort of a mini-sode that goes with the other episodes, and it's going to be deep dives of all these beautiful, weird, odd shows that we watch. And what better way to kick it all off with a friend of mine who did the song that you just listened to. He performs under the name North South. Mr. Sebastian Arnold is a guest today. Welcome to the show, Sebastian.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Getting
course.
my stuff out there.
Obviously,
me. I support you.
Send Sebastian a lot of love for the song, and follow him and subscribe to all his musical journeys. And he does such good content, good material that yeah, I dig all of it. I honestly listen to it on your SoundCloud quite a bit. I just hit the button and it'll go through the library of your 100 songs or whatever you have on there. 50
It's quite
songs.
a few. I'm glad. That's what it's really for, you know. Just
Yeah, man. It's great.
jump in, swim around.
Very good. It's so I appreciate you doing that, obviously, and I think it just makes the whole fucking thing. I just love the theme song, and I sort of came to you in a panic because I had another one through a shitty online service that sort of was supposed to be commercial and wasn't, and you just like busted it together, and I love it so much. I love the Dahmer references. It's so good. It's just perfect. So
I appreciate it.
I do appreciate you for sort of illuminating the Going Dork world. So I do appreciate it. So basically these are going to be little kind of mini-sodes of reviews of shows, of movies, of just, you know, any sort of media things that strike me as interesting. But we're going to start with Lovecraft Country, which is produced by Jordan Peele. It's brand new on HBO Max. I don't know if it's on all of HBO, but I know it's on HBO Max.
Yeah,
if there's a difference.
No idea anymore. I just feel like you just go to the most recent one and just watch everything from there.
There you go. Or you can watch the first one on YouTube. I think they released that one for free. But yeah, let's get right into it. I mean, this is obviously they've used Lovecraft's. So H.P. Lovecraft, how much did you know about sort of Lovecraft and how much of a kind of piece of shit he was?
Well, I mean, for me, me and my brother are kind of like the same opposites. So we read a lot and like Lovecraft type stuff, those type of horror stories, things of that nature, alien
Weird
things.
tales.
That's all him. Even though I listen to him like outside kind of just to get a taste, that's totally him. So as this is coming up, I really watch anything that's on HBO just to make sure, because most everything is good. So this is coming up. It says Jordan Peele and all that, so I know it's going to be nice and like racial, and then the Lovecraft stuff kind of comes ahead of it. And when I begun to read it, learn about it, it was like, okay, this is going to be pretty intense, and I'm glad that they stayed like true to that intensity.
Right. Yeah, it's even. I mean, I'm sure I, as a person, came from these worlds that he traditionally wrote about. You know what I mean? Like I'm somebody from the suburbs of Ohio, from small town, not even suburbs, but just small town Ohio, and just watching. You know, we'll get into like the script and how it went down, and I know you're a big film geek and love cinema, and so I definitely want to get into that too, of sort of some of the visuals. Some of the Gordon Parks photos that they've recreated in there. But yeah, I just from the get-go, I mean, that first, I don't know if you, how much of specifically you remember, but the intro of episode 1 to the whole series is just insane. It's sort of the, I don't know. I guess it's a Jackie Robinson quote that's being read, right?
See, for me, like to go back to how much I didn't know about Lovecraft, and that's why I like this, because it was like, even though I didn't know, I knew, like I said, I knew of the aliens and the horror aspect. So as I see this show start, like black and white, sounds like the radio, so I know it's like really that like old school horror that's like really just like in your own mind type thing, and then they show it as like all these pretty much black guy leading this thing that kind of looks like the oldest form of like TV space stuff, where it's like super colorized, like highlighted, and looks like, you know, crazy to the point. Right. And like, I, not even knowing anything, was like, I'm sure all of this is from Lovecraft. Like all of these animals and aliens are like from the stories. And I know, like, just looking at this, if I want to know more, I can easily just try to find any of these items, and I'm sure it'll lead me down a rabbit hole of Lovecraft.
Right. Yeah. I've just sort of done some, you know, there's a Vox article and a Times article, and then some sort of, you know, a lot of the discussion is the race issue of having an author that's horribly racist and lived in a time that was horribly racist. And then how that, I mean, Jordan Peele does an amazing job of flipping that on its head, you know what I mean? And making characters that are traditionally the bad guy in a lot of these films, to be completely honest, the main characters, which is amazing. But I also think that, you know, he's solved a riddle that has been sort of out there for a long time. You know, when I think of stuff like Michael Jackson and all these things that sort of, I don't know, that you it seems like it's hard to separate the art from the artist sometimes, and I don't even know if we should. But this is one of those instances where it's like, oh, you did it right.
That's a thing for me. Like, I love that he brought that up, and even like I feel like the answer they gave to it, they don't give it to say like that's the end of that and we're done. You know what I mean? Right. It's literally just like he is showing it as much as possible. They are showing it as much as possible with this show, and then also bringing up, I feel like, thoughts that you have as you like feel like it's your duty just to bring these things up. It's like, this is how I'm gonna, at this moment at least, try to deal with this and make sense of it, because I also feel a obligation to show it. So like, it's got to be a thing that's in my mind, but like at the same time, what I'm saying and how I feel about it may not be like the right answer, even though it's my answer at the moment.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. There's so much. I mean, I think this is one of those unique things that sort of gets that principle of like, how do we separate the things? Like, like you're saying, like, I don't know much, you know, it's like when the Michael Jackson song comes on, how do you feel about that? Yeah. How, I mean, he was never, you know, he never went to prison for child molestation, but he's certainly been accused of it a lot. And it's sort of like the, you know, the president thing where, he hasn't, you know, been caught raping anyone, but for the love of God, he's been accused of it.
Yeah. To a point where it's like, it's a weird moment, but I feel like it's great because these are the, like, if we are all thinking about this problem, this is the actual problem. It's not like, I feel like all this racist stuff and all this is not the actual problem. It's like how regular people feel their place. Where's their place to like judge somebody, and how should they judge them? What is right? What is enough information about somebody? What is enough to say that I'm going to do something? Like, you really got to like ask yourself that question before you judge anything, I feel like, because judging it without thinking is always going to lead to bad things. So I feel like everybody's just having that moment where they're like, wow, I should actually think about this for a second. Rather than react. Right.
And unfortunately, we still, I don't know. I just, you know, yesterday in Wisconsin, it's like you still see this shit where it's like the basic principles of that argument right there is being defied, and over and over again in our streets. And we're what, 60, 70 years in the future from this.
It's, I mean, I totally agree. And it's like, for me, I've just like, again, like I said, like, just like they said, like, when I think about that stuff, it's like, it's going to continue to happen just because we are nowhere near clear of it, even though we are beginning to ask the question, though beginning to ask the question is like such an important and almost should be celebrated time. because of the climate, because of like the level of responsibility I feel like you got to have to things like this. We can't really celebrate it all. We got to really just always stay vigilant and always continue to just ask the question, ask others, hold people accountable, and like just do the work really.
Right. Yeah. I think that's important. That's the, yeah, absolutely. I don't, I mean, a lot of the beginning stuff of the episode, I feel like, we can, it's cinematically, I love it. I don't know who shot it or who was, and I know you're a big cinema fan and really love, you watch a lot more than I do.
For me, like the reason that I really loved it and like just the tone that I feel like it's set is that it's like, okay, this show is going to be like beautiful. It's going to be beautiful and it's going to be beautiful in ways that are like, I feel familiar to a lot of people. Because that's a big thing. It's like, I love when Black people do things, but I also love that we can show that like the normal, this like the things that people think is professional and quality, we can do is like as well in our own way. So like it's just like an enriched version, I feel like, and not to say it's better. It's just it's never been seen. So each time that it's done purely, it's like it's just like a new color almost you see, and it's like for people that really like film and things like that, like myself. It really is like something I could never like, I almost could never imagine could happen. You know what I mean? Like a story like this to be told in a way, like I'll just take one example is like when Tick comes out of the, I think his father's shop, his uncle's shop. He walks across the street and it's just like this picturesque view that you always see in like maybe Once Upon a Time in America or any like, Italian American type story where they're like in the streets and it's bustling. Right. And he comes out and they're like, you see the kids on the other side and they have the fire hose or whatever. Yeah. And it's spewing and they're having a good time. And that's just that picturesque moment. Oh, but man. Like subtly in that same moment, what I love is that it looks beautiful. They show it as beautiful. But if you really look, the cop is like, telling them not to do that. And you've never like, there's never a moment in any like movie, TV show, anything where a cop is there telling them that they can't do that. Right. And like to not lead the viewer's eye to that, rather them having to watch it and then see that, I think is the thing that I love. Cause I think sometimes when they do Black stories, it's like the pain is like, oh, that's all you need to look at. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Right. And like, this is like highlighting the beauty and there is pain within it if you look type deal. Right.
And both are like necessary. Both are, I think they're both sort of weave into each other where it's like, I don't know. I think the more, I don't know. Again, I'm not the best person to speak on all this, but I do, it's just.
I feel like the dialogue is important. So your opinion is important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a big part of this where it's like, I don't know. I want a better a world, much like everyone I know. So it's like, I don't know, do the work, as you said.
Yeah.
Just on a production standpoint, because we've both worked in
for sure
production, very, very gorgeous. I'm looking at it now, just like a still of that shot of that sort of little transition scene that you were talking about, which I think they shot in Atlanta. Somewhere in
I believe
Georgia,
so. I believe so.
For Chicago. But yeah, man, it's I'm psyched to see where it goes because there's been a lot of teases and a lot of sort of things here and there that pop up and you're like, well, that seems out of place. Like, why are you featuring that? Why are you? And then of course, we'll get to the end, but then the whole end part where again, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this, so don't listen.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're not, I should have said that at the beginning.
I think we're clear. I think we're clear on the first one.
Yeah.
I think we're clear.
Yeah.
Because it's like HBO is really like pushing this, I could tell. So, and it's good. Right. So,
yeah,
I'm glad. A lot of different demographics, I feel.
Right. Yeah. And then let's see, I guess there's the lovemaking scene, which.
Yes, in the morning, I definitely have like, because also I'm not sure the ladies' names that do the podcast for the show like proper, but they I listened to that as well, and it's very good. And I'm glad that I was able to come on here with you and talk about it because I really wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to make sure I heard theirs to see what they spoke about, and they gave a nice perspective of like, I feel like the motherly and the women, obviously the women aspect of the Black experience, which for me, I feel like more and more that I see like the difference between how Black males, Black women are treated and all that. I really just want to, as much as I tell other people to do the work, I like to like show people that like the way, at least for me, that I think is like to listen. Cause I don't feel like I really, not to say not listen, but it's like, you know, when you're not actively listening, are you really listening type deal? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like any experiences I can hear from them and that those type of things I really take to heart. And they explained or just brought to my mind just the way that like you've never seen. Again, that's why I like this show. They show you things that you've never seen.
Right.
So you see this like older couple that's like super sensual together, like in the morning, and that's just like, it's not like overtly sexual or like super like strong, but like even still, like I feel like it's strong enough that as you're watching it, anybody that has a emotion in their body is like, this is getting intense. Like this is like, I could feel this love.
Absolutely. And it's not a long scene, but in that little, like whatever it is, 2 minutes or whatever it is, it's like, man, you and unfortunately later in the episode when she's they're on the phone, you know, after we'll get to that part, but when sort of a lot of shit has gone down with cops and towns, and he sort of makes a date with her on the phone, which I think was incredibly sweet. And although both me and my girlfriend, when we saw it, we were like, oh my God, he's going to die.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's going to die. Cause that's sort of the whistle of like, oh, okay, something's going to happen. Life is good. What can go wrong? You know what I
mean? I love, cause it's like, for me, as much as like, I love like the art of filming and all that, like the way audiences progress over time is like something that, even though I'm a part of it, I love to like step back and really take stock in. Cause it's like, like you said, everybody, when he said that was like, just to like skip ahead, sorry. It's just he's going to die. Yeah. And I feel like as much as like people probably have always thought that, more than ever, like now that we have so much coming at us, it's even easier for people to pick up on the patterns of a story. So like, even like people know they're watching an HBO show, first episode, a character that they've grown to love is like, hey, we're going to do something later. And everybody's like, oh, nah, no way. And I feel like when I thought that, I could feel everybody else feeling that. And then like going on, you know, like social media and seeing that response, it made me feel, again, because I'm holding this show super dear because, like I said, I've never seen, this is the type of stuff that I feel like only white protagonists and white like culture was able to explore. So I feel close to these things, and to see people like feeling that closeness to this character after one episode is, I feel like a good, it makes me happy, at least to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's long overdue. And I hope I mean, I hope they do more. I hope there's more seasons. And I don't, story wise, I don't know what happens or what goes down in the full season, but man, I hope there's more. I hope this lives a long life,
a healthy life. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many great sort of, they go into the Denmark Vessie's bar at some point there, and you just see more of the world of the outside of the streets, and it's gorgeous, man. And they're playing in this, in the like you mentioned before, in the sprinkler, or in the hydrant. I always forget that name.
What it's called, for sure.
Which as a prop person watching that scene, you have to get a lot of permits for that. But the trick that they did in that was they put a tire around the hydrant, and then they put a board spewing the water into the sky. It's genius.
Were you able to see that? Just because I saw the tire, but I didn't see the board that you're talking about. Were you able to see that just on camera?
Yeah, you see it a little bit in that first scene where the cop shuts it down, but then later, which we'll get to, you see it more prominently.
I see.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just something where, living in the cornfields of Ohio, that wasn't part of my living. So
same. I mean, I'm from North Carolina, and so it's like, even though like I would come up every now and again, so I'd have a taste of it. I am very country, so I definitely hear you, and I'm totally with you there. This stuff looks like movie and picturesque, and that's why I always equate it to that.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think as the story moves along, basically the gist is Atticus is looking for his father, who's apparently is a drunk, and so he's sort of starting his journey of finding him and putting the pieces together before he decides to leave. It all sort of leads up into he gets some information from a guy in a back alley. He's getting a BJ. And then that sort of leads into this amazing, probably I would have to think like 5-page scene of the nighttime concert and the block party. Basically, it's the evening of the block party, sure. But which is just gorgeous. And you know when Journey Smollett comes up and sings, like it's just it's really 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 well done.
I feel like to piggyback on like how the story is progressing, as you said, he gets that note, he kind of converses with his uncle and aunt and like cousin, whatever, and then I feel like they piggyback off them being like they're going to do a new little drive through the town to see how it is journey wise to get to there, I guess, in that little area. And then, as you said, they go to the block party, and I feel like at the block party we get, because before that first half of that is just like Atticus coming in and how he is relating, and then how he feels and is showing the difference between being black in this community, how the white experience is, and all this. And I feel like when we go to the two ladies, it's nice because even though it's surrounded by blackness, we have this like light skin and dark skin little tete-a-tete almost, where it's like we kind of feel that, like, I love because it's like the whole story is obviously like the undertone is this, so I like to bring it up because it's like that I think mirrors what goes on later on the I feel like more literal side.
And then you see the journal that has been mass publicized and made for, and it's just something that blows my mind. That is something that had to exist in those. And again, I don't know where. It's not something that I'm familiar with, and nor watching this. It's just very shocking to me, and it's very surprising to me that they're literally sitting down trying to figure out where is safe to travel in their country.
Yeah, and I should also I should point out, because it's like I'm right there with you. Like I've never, as much as I know that, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, it's not safe. Say you go to the wrong place and you say the wrong thing, it could be not safe. And I love that, like, they talk about it the same way you talk about I guess was talked about back then, where it's like super subtle. It's like, yeah, it could be dangerous over there. And I love because I love the backdrop of like real horror, because it's like they're talking about this the same way I would feel you do in horror movies when they talk about the horror thing that's going to come and get you later. You know what I mean? They're like, it's always played down. It's always a myth. It's always like, it's bad. It was bad or whatever, but did it really happen? Was it that bad type thing? So I love that, like that is the horror aspect that they're really pushing to start, even though there are, and we'll come to find out, real actual horror things that are happening.
It's a great mix of the first and the. Obviously, we're skipping ahead, but that first scene of the him in the war and I guess Korean War, right? And sort of going. It's just it all sort of links up so perfectly together in the end to make. I don't know if this was a pilot, I or just a series that was greenlit straight to series, but I can't imagine it was a pilot, but.
I don't think so either. It's too much to coincide, cohesion, I feel like.
I also didn't, the shop that they go in that you had just talked about, the uncle's shop. Yeah. I guess it's, I'm trying to read the thing, motor tuning. So I guess it's a shop, but it looks like a library in front, but maybe those are like auto manuals or something.
I mean,
or wait,
true. Cause I'm kind of looking at it.
No, maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe it's. I gathered that the uncle owned the place.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only reason I think it's his is because of the books, right? Like it's been made a point that like he's like this fanatic for books and like to be led on like Atticus loves books, but this guy loves them just as much, maybe more. You know what I mean? Because it's like he's had so much and he's like surrounded by them type deal.
Yeah, it's the eternal struggle of us artists who want to do something but are forced to do other things like work in the film industry. Not that I was forced, but you know what I mean. Yeah, we'd rather be using those books for good measure rather than fixing oil,
cars,
pans.
And whatnot.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that comes back to the block party where a lot of the story, with Letitia begins, with her and her sister, and sort of you really start to go find out a little bit more about her and why she's blowing through town and how much she has in common with Atticus, and then I don't know, it just seems like to get those three people together in a car. Those three characters, it seems like it, obviously they set it up as like, I just need a ride to the next town. And then it blows up into, nope, you're in it for the journey. But,
I mean, I just feel like as much as they put story points and all that and try to talk about everything else, I just like the flow. Cause I feel like he comes in, he finds his uncle's like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this thing. I got to do this thing as well. That sounds cool to me. And then we meet her. They roll in to do their like song, and I feel like it really is like that's the conclusion of we are black and we are like we are in the new Jim Crow. You know what I'm saying? We're out of Jim Crow, whatever, and we are now like living our life as much as with the new freedom that we've like come to know, and that's like really showing that I feel like to the audience, and like that's just the culmination of that. And then after all that, I feel like the little spines that really Atticus, George, and Letitia like as like three pillars of like what that type of like new life means. They go out and I feel like experience this journey. So it's nice that they round that up for us and then say, okay, now that you know these three people, how they are, now let's see them do something.
Right. It's the build up, strip down thing where it's like, I guess it's a trope of writing, but
it's nice when it works.
Yes. And then Atticus goes and like I said before, he pops the cork on the fire hydrant during these, which is a great moment to sort of add to all of the fun. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. It's I guess, and then at that point they sort of, after the block party, the uncle finds out that Atticus is going to leave, so he shows him a map, and the map has been drawn on by, I guess it's his niece. Yeah, it's their daughter, right? Who has these. I guess that's another deeper part of sort of the what they're trying to unravel as far as like, why does she draw these things like this, and how does she involved if she's just a little kid? You know what I mean? Like, which I kind of love. And just to have like I mean, it's sort of sowing the seeds of these weird moments of him having these daydream, or just that one daydream, and then all of this sort of Lovecrafty weird tales sort of mindset. But why, I understand that that's the daughter of the uncle, but and so by proxy, I'm sure that she has sort of learned some of this, or maybe has picked it up. But she is like,
I feel like almost like, to be honest, I didn't even think about it this way, but how you're putting it, I feel like it's again how we start to equate monsters. I feel like she probably hasn't seen, maybe she hasn't seen or remembers how bad it could be, you know what I mean, the real dangers.
Right.
So like she's only heard it, and in hearing that, as we've come to realize, she's into comics and draws.
Right.
So like she, for sure, monsters, she's read comics with monsters, so I feel like she hears these stories of how bad things can get and could only think about those things, I feel like, in that type of way.
Interesting. Yeah.
But again, how could she know about certain things happening in certain places?
The fantasy part of it that's interesting. But I feel like she did draw like some KKK members or something in part of that map. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember that at all? Like they're flipping.
I remember seeing, I watched. I mean, I'm still looking at it right now, but I watched it earlier, and I remember seeing like troll type things, and then the big one that they said was like the death, where it was like she had drawn death, and there was like a clock,
right, which is where they're
over a certain place,
which ends up being
and like
their heart
where they were going. And for me, it's like I'm not sure what that means, but for me, it's like death, I guess.
Right. A monster's a monster. No, but I actually just found the spot. Yeah, and it's Klansmen in white robes, you just see the white robes, obviously. But
really?
But yeah, I just think it's interesting. It's an interesting to be like, not only are we seeing this whole journey through Atticus, but I bet she's going to have something to do with it. You know?
Yes, I think honestly, like, because the way they set it up, it seems like really every single part of this family is important, and like really anybody they touch seems highlight, because there's like I feel like there's a lot of people in the street, to be honest. So it's like the ones that they do highlight and speak, it's like these people aren't just going to be here for a second and go. They're really going to like have roots and like tell us things, because as we see with Atticus, he's like has some strength and like some vision. I feel more than a normal. I feel like you would think normal people have.
I think the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the bedroom scene right before he, I guess it's the night before, or maybe the night before, where he gets a phone call and he can't talk on the line. And it's someone in Korea. And I guess the line is something like, we told you not to go home, or something of that sort.
It was like, I'm looking at it again, and she was like, you should, well, she calls for him. He doesn't say anything, and then she's like, "Shoot, you shouldn't have left."
Right.
Type deal. And I like it just because, I mean, the alien girl I definitely noted was Asian in the beginning.
Yes. Spoiler alert, but that's the same person. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just like, okay, I know he's dreaming about her, and she seems to be like a savior. I always try to like, who is she to him, to kind of better understand the way that she's talking. But it's like, which I like about it, it's very vague. Like, you shouldn't have left, even though it was war. And he seems attached to it, which is like also another thing that's super interesting. With this character.
Yet terrified of it, because there are those times like towards the end where he's like, go, go, go. He doesn't want to stick around and they just walk up, at the, I don't want to ruin it right now, but towards the end, they just sort of walk right up to it. But they said, you went home. You shouldn't have. I guess that was the words. But yeah, I just think it's and sort of I don't know. I guess it ties it all together. It just was sort of one of those like, is this just here to further the alien story? I don't know. It was just sort of and of course it is, but like I couldn't.
I think what I feel like with this is like, as I said, these characters, like the story is these characters. We're going to see monsters. We're going to see like maybe like the how race is, all these different things. But the core, and I feel like the story here and the things that should be like the most important to us, and I feel like will always be our through line, are these characters. Like each, like Atticus, there's like something to know about what he did in South Korea. Like what that did to him, what he did over there, and how he brings it. Because I feel like that, like I said, they're going into this new world with this, like how Jim Crow is going away, and like they're living in these towns, but like they're not living in these towns without how they used to be. So it's like really coming into a new place, trying to be a new person, but at the same time, that past it's not going away, and you can't run away from it type deal.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's an incredible sort of I guess that's something that I just didn't. I don't know. I'm not that great of a screenwriter, or I've tried for years, but there's definitely something there where it's that I never realized until you just said it, where it was like, yes, there was this attitude of, and I guess it's pretty plain in the show, but there was this attitude of, hey, our lives have changed for the better. The worst is beyond us. Things will change. Yeah. And then, of course, obviously, it's 2020 and not much has changed.
But mean, the whole thing is like, this isn't something that you can like, how can I say it? Like, I'm not smarter than it. You're not smart. Nobody's smarter than that.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You can only be as smart as the present moment you're in, as much as you want to say something about the future or the past. It's just like, you're here. This is what it is. And it's just about, you know, being present. I feel like that's the thing. 'Cause I think sometimes people are not present in the moment. And it's like, that's the only fault you can have. It's not about trying to predict the future, because you can't do that.
Right. Let's see. We get our last sort of looks at Chicago here, or the I guess I don't exactly know where in Chicago, but and they pack up sort of to go on this trip, and Letitia's supposed to only, you know, stick around for a little bit, but that changes obviously as we get down the line. And then she gets this amazing comic that has had the name change. Her daughter is Orinthia Blue, I think it is. Which is awesome. Which is amazing. And it looks, you know, it's just like it almost makes her cry, the mom cry, because she's she's so happy that I don't know. I'm not sure what the original name was. I don't know if we ever saw that.
Well, I mean, he said Black Panther. He was like a Panther Man.
Oh, gotcha.
And I feel like the whole thing, if I can help with the story again, it's like, this is saying something, and something we should definitely be looking out for. It's like, this daughter, right? She has an eye on things, as we've been talking, come to realize. And as the dad kind of alludes, he's like, "Ooh, I'm excited." He kind of plays her down, where he's like, "Ooh, I'm forgetting one thing. What am I forgetting? Right. Oh, your comic." And he's like, "I'm so excited to hear about Panther Man and what he's going to be doing now," which I took as like, okay, that's the daughter showing love to her father. Panther Man is her father, and he's probably going on all these adventures, as he does with these roadmap type travels, you know? So as that happens, we go to find out like that she changed it to Orinthia Blue, which I love also, because I feel like that title is so old school. Like, you would never hear about, even because I guess that's a color. I'm hoping to get that right. Orinthia or something like that. But like,
I'll fact check it.
Or maybe it's just a name. But like, I feel like it exemplifies a certain type of color. It's definitely from back then. And it's the shift, I feel like, from her father to her mother. And that's why, as he shows it to her, he says "oop," and I feel like it's definitely like a black verbiage, where it's like, you kind of be like, "Oh, you didn't expect this," is pretty much what "oop" means when you say it to somebody else. So like, he shows her, look at this. Like, she probably knows that her daughter has so much love for her father, like a lot of girls do for their father. But that change, as much as it's like, they probably think of it as like, oh, she's just showing her mom some love. Me as an audience member and like script person, you'd think to yourself, that's a hint. Like, as we said earlier, is like, we heard that George is gonna bite the dust. That's how we feel. Right. That's almost, if we want to go back, that's another, like, a little hint for that. I feel like that things may be shifting in that type of way. And that's definitely how people definitely like to write.
And do you think the daughter has like foresight into that, or that's what you're saying?
I mean, honestly, I didn't think about that until we had this conversation right now. But like, the more we speak, the more I'm definitely feeling that way. Because, I mean, I don't want to go into the next episode, but it definitely highlights like this episode, as much as I don't think it was a pilot episode, it's so different than the next one. And I feel like, I'm not sure how that will play. It's another thing where it's like, I watched this and I was like, I wonder what the next one will be. And I watched the next one. I'm like, I wonder what the next one will be. And I'm not sure if that's how it will like progress, or if somewhere in between there we'll kind of find ourselves. But that's another point.
Yeah, I can't wait. There's a lot of good things that have been planted.
Orangutans. They're beautiful, playful, and majestic, and disappearing. Every day, as many as 20 orangutans vanish. They starve to death when their homes are destroyed, or are killed when they stray into villages in search of food. International Animal Rescue is fighting for the survival of the critically endangered orangutan. But we can't do it without you. Please visit internationalanimalrescue.org and help us save orangutans before it's too late. That's internationalanimalrescue.org.
Let's see. This is where we get into the once they get on the road, stop for a bite, and you see, you basically see these Gordon Parks photos come to life.
Yes.
In obviously in film TV versions of as close as they can get. But when I saw them, I was like, oh my God, obviously that's.
Did you notice on first view?
I noticed on first view that the outside of the theater when we first see Chicago, that seemed like something I'd seen in a photo, and then this is which I presuming is one of his Gordon Parks' most famous photos. I don't know what as far as what ranks, but I know I've seen this before in some way, shape, or form, and it's horrible. You see, the colored side and the white side, and obviously one side is getting service and the other isn't, and it's a very subtle. It's not subtle at all, but it's a very it just immediately you're out of that Chicago neighborhood. And out of that, what you were saying was like the good times are ahead of us, and then we're back into real life where it's like, that's not how the world works. Yeah, take
exactly.
a step out.
It's like, don't get too excited.
Right. And then it's only going to get worse. Spoiler alert again. But again, I love seeing a lot of these visually as an art person, they're just gorgeous, and to see these come to life, which I'm sure maybe in some other forms they have. I'm not sure if I've seen them in anything else. But
I mean, for me to like, the reason I asked, because for me, I really like to know a bunch about a lot of stuff, but like I saw that, and like for me, it just hit me as like, these are like, I could tell they like set these up, like tried their hardest to set these up. So like I should have like kind of put 2 and 2 together to realize they were probably photos, but I didn't. I loved that I loved that it was like supposed to be a photo, because it's like you're looking at it, and I feel like the way you look at photos is different than the way you look at a TV show. You look at a TV show to tell you something, whereas you look at a photo and it's like you kind of interpret around it, because it's not moving as much. You know what I'm saying?
Different media. It's like it's a for me, old photos have always been just like this weird slice of pause. I mean, obviously, but it's a weird slice of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It feels real because you can see it. But it's, as you know, it's not moving any further. So it just is that like certain moment. And I feel like that's, again, with this show and the pacing of it and the way it's put together, like that's what I love, because we talk about, we've never seen, like I said, the way Black life was to start. As they go on this road, now we're seeing photos that we've seen before, type of deal, where it's like, it's the bad, like you said, it's the bad stuff. But for me, like those photos are so beautiful. Like they almost take, for me personally, the bad stuff that they're even depicting kind of like almost gets lost, because it's so beautiful. Right. It's so like, it is like this like, again, it just feels like this can't be real, even though I know it is real. It's like this seems staged.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't feel it yet. Right. And I feel like that's maybe, I don't know if they tried to do that, but it came across that way. It's like, I can't quite feel it. And I love that they were like, we will make sure it comes across.
And of course, in this first episode, they do sort of what they did earlier, is they completely squash that in the next frame, which is the "Don't Let the Sun Set on You" here, which is terrifying. And I did some research in Ohio, and apparently Fairborn, which is Dayton, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton, was one of these counties, which I had never heard, and it's just terrifying. It's I don't know. I'm sure I've heard of sundown towns, and I'm sure I've heard the term and understood what they were, but nothing. I don't think they've been sort of this real to me. Obviously, because I'm a white dude from Ohio, but it's something that just, it seems like another world to me.
See, like, just to like put, I feel like a little perspective, because I'm like, again, I'm from the South, North Carolina, so it's like, even though I was in a very, very military town, like you get the feeling, and that I feel like that's like the biggest thing, and that's what I love that they kind of touched on, especially with Atticus. Again, I really relate with this character, because it's like, he's smart and he understands his place, even though he feels like he's more than that. He he understands his place and understands the ways to best maneuver himself for maximum freedom and maximum, like, I feel like just like who to be, who
there's
he
also
is.
that
And I feel
sense
like
of him that's like challenging, which you see him holding it back every time he talks to anyone of authority.
Yes.
Of, white authority. But but yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. And I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, he can balance that, like how he feels and how he should come off type thing. And
I again, this is leads us to another shitty scene, important scene, but yeah, in the gas station of where they basically have to shuffle off because a bunch of shitheads are making gestures, and you see people inside just not caring, and it's again another one of these harsh realities of like, I don't know how you don't beat the shit out of that kid with the glasses. I don't know how you don't, you know what I mean? But you can't. And that's with that character, any of those characters, you just couldn't do it.
You can't. Yeah. Exactly. But like, for me to say something about like this, like, I am the type of person where like I've seen stuff like this, where they're like, they have these type of interactions, and I feel like any type of provocation on the black person's part is like subject to like death, pretty much. Like, they will like chase you to death. So like, the fact that he even threw the banana at the dude, I felt like for me was like almost, it was a weird feeling, because like they've been like hinting that it's going to get worse this entire time, but that was just like, they kind of let that, I was like, they let that go and they didn't change it. That's
that shocked me. It shocked me that
I was shocked, and I feel like they had to have like wanted us to be like, oh, this is going to be crazy, and then it was nothing.
I was fully expecting people coming out of the gas station and all. Side note, I worked in a full service gas station my teen years.
How was that? Where? In Ohio?
And it was a lot like this, where you pull in and there was a bell, it ran over. I would come out, pump gas, go back in. One time I left the pump in a car because I was psyched, because one of my strong friends was arm wrestling an old guy, and I was like, oh, it's going to be great. I just forgot about it, and this guy in a BMW just drives off with a handle in his car.
Oh, no.
Wasn't good. Not a good look for me, but yeah, so it's a weird first job type thing, where it was across the street, and I was like, oh yeah,
that's
but
awesome.
Yeah, I come out and I wash windshields. It was the dying breed. I honestly doubt there's another one in Ohio left, but
I was gonna say
it's still not there anymore either. It's empty, but yeah, it's weird to see this my former life.
Former life, that's hilarious.
In some ways, yeah. But the other thing about this scene is obviously when they pull off, they're kind of in a hurry because they're about ready to kill that guy that pumps the gas.
Yeah,
or I would be. But when they pull off, you see the Aunt Jemima pancake ad, and delicious. Yeah. Now that's something that I want to know if that was in the 2006 book or a 16 book, or if that's something that was added because recently they announced that they're going to change the packaging in 2020, and this show was set in 54.
50-40s. So around
just on a basic segregated 50s. But yeah, it's like, just think about that right there is something that for me, it was just like, oh yeah, here's a very real world example of the shit still hasn't changed. They're still selling this. You know what I mean? They're still selling this exact product with this exact image, with this, and
I think the biggest thing is like, we come to find out more and more, like I said, as we grow up and they have all this information, we come to like understand companies and understand how things run. And I think back then it's like, the people that make these ads, the people that run these companies, they're a very, very small group of people. So like, the information that comes behind this is super privileged. So like, if people see those ads, and like, back then, I know they're not thinking Aunt Jemima runs that company, you know what I mean? But like, as we progress and grow more, we see those Aunt Jemima ads. We've always seen her on it. So like, we don't think about it as like as bad as it is. And like, what it's actually trying to say, because we've kind of like, as we've grown, we like, again, try to run away from it, try to run away from the things that we did and like the reasons behind the things. And it's like, we ran away, but like the past is, we didn't run away from the past. We brought it with us to a place that we thought we weren't being the same person, even though we are.
Right.
So it's like this show, I mean, I feel like it just kind of like softly continues to hint that at you and just throw that at you. Because the thing is, like, I love to, like, this race is like, as a Black creator, I feel like you can always allude to these things and it's never going to run out of style, just because it's like the way that it's in the culture. It's like there's a shift that is larger than like anybody's true understanding has to happen before it can go away. So it's like, it'll never, like, it seems sometimes it's like, it's so like on brand, you know what I mean? Like when they talk about this like racist stuff, sometimes it seems like it's like, well, how is this like hitting like so perfectly, you know? Like I watching, to talk about another show quickly, is like, we'll watch Perry Mason and we see this like black detective and he's having this tough time on a white police force. And it's like, that is how important and how like pressing is that to like right now. And who, like, you know, they had no idea like that this is going to be a crazy thing when the show is on air type deal. And neither did this show, Lovecraft, because it was made probably last year.
I saw one of the call sheets somewhere, and it was now I've lost it, but it was longer ago than I thought. I think it said 2017.
See,
that's
what I mean. It's just like I just like sometimes like I love talking about the show because you can be like, they show it to you in a way that I feel like will teach you. But I think sometimes in real life we think about it wrong and we are like surprised, where it's like like I said, if we do the work, you won't be surprised. There's nothing to be surprised about. You know what I mean? Exactly. These things are here, have been here, and have been talked about. You know what I mean? It's not like it's like nobody said anything about Aunt Jemima up until 2020.
Right. Or the Washington Redskins, or, you know, a plethora of exactly. I mean?
Like everything. It's like it's the biggest thing is that not that it's not been talked about, because I think a lot of times people hear about it and they think when they hear about it, that's the first time it's been said. It's like, no, you gotta you know, be courteous.
Right. Well, let's see here. We I think from there we sort of they make a pit stop. I don't even know where they are at that point, but it still looks Chicago-y. I don't know. Maybe it's not.
It's like probably. I mean, if they're in Chicago, Illinois, it's just the surrounding area. Probably.
It's weird though that they. Anyway, maybe I'm not getting it right, but there's more of those images of, you know, the world's highest standard of living, and you see the white family in the car and the dog and line of unemployed folks outside, but. That sort of basically, you know, there's some more other strategic stuff that leads into sort of the theme of the episode when they come into a little town to get, you know, to make a pit stop to get something to eat. And this is based on that guide saying, we think that this is one of those restaurants that are safe to eat at. And so they get to this little, you know, obviously it's not an innocent looking town, because at every turn they get looks, and they have the whole fire department sort of, and whoever did the dog on the leash that's sort of slow-mo-y, and it's just crazy.
It's weird because, again, like you said, we worked on TV shows, so like we definitely know what it like. It's different when you work on TV shows and you see certain things. Like you can kind of bring yourself out of like the grandioseness of it and make it seem just regular, because you would be on the street where they would be doing these things and they don't look glamorous when you're just on the street. But that moment is just like, oh man, I've never experienced something like that, but that's like, I couldn't imagine somebody like Tick or any of them seeing that dog and just being like, whoa, like, I hope that dog doesn't come off that leash, and like, because it would be a problem.
And what a horrible metaphor for the whole thing it is. It's just the worst. But that leads into sort of the diner scene of, I don't know, it, you know, coming in, you sort of feel like Courtney B. Vance is going to sort of, he knows it's good, so he's going to sit down regardless of what's happening, and just, he's a free man in free country, and he's going to have his meal because, you know, partially because he's informed by this book
That's the place to be.
Yeah, and then of course they sit to eat, and one of the guys that's sort of among the peanut gallery that's staring them down through their town. There's this guy sitting at the table, and you can just feel it. You can just feel that there's something wrong, and it's unsettling.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, this is supposed to be a safe place, but why? What's going on here? And they make a reference to the White House and when it was burned during the war, and repainting the walls, which I think they took a little liberty with, because I was reading something that said that was kind of not necessarily true to the T.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically they sit down to eat and start talking, and it's how it unfolds is again, I love the showrunner. I think she did an amazing job. And the direction of this, I think, is really great too. But
yes.
But yeah, it's basically they take a minute to sit down and start ordering and start thinking about what they're going to order. I guess they hadn't even been looked at that point as far as serving.
Yeah.
But and then Letitia goes to take a leak, and then coming back, she sees that this little puny server is talking to who knows who. Probably, I guess we find out later who that is, but
yeah.
And then all shit goes sort of out the window, because at that point she alerts them and they just go running out. They one of the great inserts of this whole thing, one of the great shots, I think, is that pulling back of the tile on the floor and seeing that it's charred.
Yes.
And knowing what that means, and as far as the White House stuff.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just a straight up shootout and chase out of this town, and then you start. I don't know. It's just the obviously, the film fan in me is like, oh, it's shot well, it's great, but then the whole this is just sort of a microcosm for the whole thing. It's like, yes, this is really not fun to watch, but good God, there's some guilt there.
I mean, but that's what I mean. It's like, for me, I just like I said, I want everybody to enjoy this. I don't want people to feel like, as much as I don't want people to feel bad.
Right.
Like, if you do the work, there's no reason to feel bad. Right. Do the work, you'll be fine, and you can enjoy this. This is here to, I feel like, teach us, entertain us, and do all the things that TV and movies are meant to do. Really, elevate us, because we live life like it is shown in this TV from time to time when it gets super outrageous. But if we have something like this, we can we can make mistakes watching TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. We can learn from TV. So we can, as we go out into the world, we have these shows that are they are here to teach us. They're here to hold us, I feel like, accountable as people in the way that we are, show us the world, these types of things. So we just need to be diligent in watching it and be excited. Because like you said, that chase was incredible.
I mean,
and the way that
I just keep thinking about the cars and having the engines overheat, and at some point, when we're
there was sorry to cut you off, but I saw Journey Smollett. She mentioned, because she's doing a bunch on Twitter as this comes out, and just talking about it with fans and things of that nature. But she said the moment where she's like, "I'm Letitia fucking Lewis" type.
I mean, that's
moment.
the quote of the episode. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. And when she said they only were able to do that twice. So the one that she did, I think, was the second time, because the car wasn't able to go anymore. And I'm literally, as she says that, thinking about production, that makes sense.
The name is not,
if you get a car to do that much, it's out of
the name
this
is
world.
Not girl, it's Letitia fucking Lewis.
So exactly. Good. And that's what I mean, with the Black woman experience. That's why I love this show, because I can understand that. I can take a lot from just that line. Right. You know what I mean? Like I said, because I think the chase is good. The finding out that it's super racist is really, really good. But I think the backbone of how they find out and then how they escape is super important, because you said she's the crux, because she is the one that alerts them to it and then gets them out of it. And then as this is happening, like I said, with the Black women experience, I'm noticing that George Freeman the entire time is questioning her. the entire time that his life is literally in the balance.
And even more,
they're running away.
Yeah, and even more crazy, he doesn't want her to drive his car.
That's what I mean. Like, he's like, no, just get, like, they're running away, and he's like, just give me a second, I'll get in the front, and then we'll drive. It's like she's already driving the car, and still, like, even though, like, I think a lot of the time, that's why I say, like, I can be upset, like, I can feel as bad as I think, like, sometimes white people feel about seeing stuff like that. Because, like, as a black man, I know that type of thing happens so much with black women, where it's like they want to be taken, they should be taken seriously and should be heard just as much as anybody else. And, like, there's this weird idea that, like, they can't do things. And I love that this, like, after showing all this black stuff and, like, this equality between us, we then get into even deeper things where it's like there becomes this thing, even no black, no white, no nothing, where racism actually is, like, not a thing, where it's like men and women. And like, especially in the black community, because of how racism has affected people, I feel like there's a certain, like, almost like aftertaste of that on the way that we talk to each other, and especially talk to women and women talk to men. It's just this whole, like, especially back then, where it's like, you can't do what I can do, so let me do it. And then she's like, no, I can handle this. And we see that exactly. My name is this.
It's crazy when you think about women in the world and how long it's taken to get them any semblance of rights, let alone being a person of color. Or it's just insane even to think about this, where it's, you see her cleaning up the dishes and doing all the stuff that the normal female role would do, which, I mean, I guess it still exists in the world, but it's like, I feel like that myth has been shattered several times over, and I'm glad it has, where it's like, the woman has to do this and the woman has to do that.
I mean, it's like, it's tough, because it's like, this reminds me, I mean, just like the way that you just put it is to say, like, that myth does get shattered. But like I said, as we go, like, I'm glad, like, I like talking because this makes me think about different things, but it's like, as we go forward, again, I'll say this again, we bring things with us. And it's like, as much as you're right, it does get shattered, it's not like as it shatters, we step over, like, we don't step in the glass, if that is a good metaphor, any type of metaphor, where it's like we bring it again. It doesn't quite end, because as much as the big headline or the big center of, like, where we're having this fight seems like the only thing that seems like the on-off switch for it, it isn't in a world that is like this, because it's like wherever we're having this fight, as much as that's great, that doesn't say anything to say someplace else that has no idea about the fight, or another place that has an idea about the fight but doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like, the way that we're trying to move things, and, like, I think, like I'm saying, like, when we have the celebratory feeling of, like, oh, we did something, you just got to think about the vastness of, like, not only, like, just life, it's just, like, the vastness of us as people. We have ideas that are centralized. These ideas are centralized in certain places. So as much as we have these fights about certain things in certain areas, and we prevail and people's thoughts are changed, that means nothing to our neighbors who didn't have that fight.
Right.
It means nothing.
But I think what you're saying is but before about the doing the work, it's like the work might mean something different to different people at different stages in their life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But as long as the work's being done.
And that's what it's like. It sucks sometimes, because it's like you want to be on the nose with things like this, but, like, I feel like as I've grown to realize what works and what doesn't work when trying to actually make true change in things that are very, very serious, is to, like, not hit it on the head so much as to, like, tell people, like, you do the work. Because if I tell you to do the work, a person that I know is invested with me in the thing that I'm talking about, they're going to take doing the work and try to understand what that means. And, like, I could never make it mean what it should mean to them.
Exactly. Right.
And, like, I'm going to give it to you so that you can make it mean. I'm going to, like, trust you and love you enough to say that you are able to do this. And that's why I give you that, just do the work, because I trust you. I think you will. And if you do, only good things can happen.
Well, we set up the car crash, or the car chase. That is, you should just see it, especially if you haven't seen the episode. I know we're ruining a lot, but But it's pretty great. And, you know, towards the end,
Yes.
it's sort of this silver, I don't even know what it is, some silver sort of upper class looking.
I feel like you're gonna say Silver Bullet, because that's exactly how I
Stephen
felt it
King
was. It was just like, it was just barreling down next to them. I'm like, okay, it got even crazier, like, for a second there.
But I didn't, you know, at first you're like, did he just let that person merge in so that there's a little bump, you know, a little space in between, you know what I mean? In theory, that truck would never shoot at a random car, you know.
Exactly.
But anyway, that and then, you know, that's where sort of the big ending starts of the supernatural element of the whole thing, where somehow or another they just pull in front of that truck and it flips upside down and you see
it just flips.
racists flying.
And I love that. I love it's like you see that the cars didn't hit each other. Like, that's like, and that's again, like, that's just really, really good direction, the writing, because I'm sure they wrote that that way. But it was like, because you watch it and like you're seeing this very real chase and you're like, oh, this is epic, this is fun, you know, you fully invested, and then it's like they turn, car flips over, and I know me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, whoa, that car didn't hit. Like, the first thing is like, that car didn't hit that, even though I'm fully invested in the chase. I'm like, that car didn't hit that. And I'm like, first seeing it, I feel like, again, working on TV shows, you're like, maybe they didn't get it right. Because like that could definitely happen.
It's the punch through, where like you get, or it's,
and you don't quite
you
see
hear it, but you don't see it.
And I like, that's like what I thought immediately. But as I've watched it a few times, I can tell like the angle, the way they shot it, everything is like to really put it home that like this didn't hit that car. So like another thing to really think about. And like you said, supernatural.
And again, from the production standpoint, it's like just having these. I mean, these cars at this point are 80, 70 years old, 60 years old. Some of them. Like having them racing down these country roads and like doing like the Silver Bullet did the old e-brake slide in front of the truck. And it's just like, I can't imagine asking someone who owns this car if we can do that. Can we let our stunt department just pull the e-brake in the middle of the road and then a truck is going to flip over top of it?
It was so smooth. Like that car, like, as much as like, again, working on TV shows, and you see those cars like on the day, and they're like, they barely work. They barely look like they could do anything. But you know, when they see them like on TV, they always, no matter what, even if it is the worst car, it looks amazing. So like, I'm watching these cars, and like we're saying, it's driving. So just the fact that it's driving that fast was like a lot for me.
3 of them.
I'm like watching it, like that's like, that is fast. Like that, like I could see the speed, and I know like that's not something you can really cheat, that type of speed that they were getting there. So it was like, and then they put the e-brake on, like you said, and it's like, how is the car on its own not flipping over?
Well,
like that car.
You got to think that the cars back in the day were pure metal, and so that car probably
weighed
heavier, like, 15,000 pounds or something crazy. But again, though, who knows? Sure. It's all that's another part of that creative liberty that they've taken, I'm sure. For sure. That sort of leads us to the big push to the end, where they do get out of this chase, and a mysterious lady in a red hat pops out at the end, and we cut to the dinner scene of Letitia and her brother's house, I think. And they're sort of laughing about it, and I mean, listen, there's a lot of people who have the theory of every Nazi should be punched in the face, which I'm very much a part of. And this was one of those things where it's like, when you see those rednecks, there's that one guy that flies off the top of the truck who had the scoped shotgun, and I'm just like, wow. Yes. Like, not only was that looked amazing, but it's like, okay, let's go. It's like, I want to see more of this.
Like I said, like, but that's the thing with this show. Like, again, as much as they're like, we're going to dive into the badness, we're going to show all the stuff, and it's going to hurt. A good horror, you know what I mean? They give the deaths of our like heroines, but they will also give those heroines those same like wins. You know what I mean? So it's like really reveling in all of it. I feel like is such a thing that is like, again, as this, I'm going to say this is a black show. It's like this, I've never on this level, on this type of like network, this is like everything
Mhm,
for me
mhm.
right now. As they're doing it, just up to this
Right.
point, as we're saying it, literally, this is like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe it. Like every single second that goes
Right.
forward.
Right. Yeah. I am the same. I'm enthralled. I've spent hours researching just to do this episode. So it's like I can't wait
Yeah.
to dive into the rest. And I'm psyched that you have volunteered to do the whole series of season 1. So
Oh yeah.
psyched. But from there, yeah, they have dinner. They have a nice dinner, and then we sort of meet this the ultimate bad guy, this sort of cop that looks like he was molded out of white clay and hate. It's just like he just looks the
That's a good
part.
description.
Whoever casted that dude, good, nice work. But yeah, it's they talk about sort of their trip and what they're doing, and then they talk about going to Devon County. I think was the next morning or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this is a lot of sort of information, and then we have this sort of like arguing towards the end of the night where Atticus is like, wants to go in and say something or do something, but it's like his uncle's like, hey, that's family business. Don't get involved.
Exactly.
Which I'm sure would, which makes sense. But
I mean, just to like, I guess, summarize and put it together is like they have that moment, they get saved, right? And then they go actually to Letitia's brother. When they're at the brothers, this is another thing where it's like, I think hitting that point home with the black woman and how she is not in let's say the white world or in the man's world, but in the family world. So now we're going to see her with her family as opposed to with another family. So it's like she's doing all the womanly duties, and really, as we were talking about Atticus and how he dumbed himself down when he's being oppressed in certain ways, she did the same thing and like does it pretty like easily at first, and then as the Atticus and George are outside talking to each other about their family problems, we have this like I guess parallel family problem little bubble happening, I guess.
Yeah.
And we get to like really emphasize, I think, in the black family how it really is, where it's like even inside he's making a good point where it's like she didn't come home for the family when her mother died, but which is very prominent to today, she is making a point where it's like she took money to bail friends out fighting causes, which I'm sure were the racial causes in all these places, again, that like she's almost privileged to even be in. Because back then, you know what I mean, black people in general, you just die if you're really fighting those causes like that. So I'm sure it's alluding to the fact that she has the privilege to even do it in this manner. And that is why he's like her brother, is upset with her in the way that she's doing it, upset with the way that she's taking the money. And that's why they're having their problem, as much as it probably stands out to be like, oh, men are like being so mean to the women. I love that they let you hear that entire discourse, because as much as like it's not right for them to hit women or talk to them mostly in the way that they are.
I don't think they
it's not to say that they condone it. It's just like to show it and to also show the other side of like why that pain would like even have you talk or feel that way about another sibling. And it's pretty much wrapped around how the suppression forces you to live. Like it forces you to act in a way that is not quite always the way that you truly want to or feel like. And I feel like that is a good way to like wrap all that really up, because that's what it really was. You know, not everybody is doing what they want to, but they're doing what they have to.
Well, that leads us to Devon County, which is where it really starts to. You thought, it's like there's a lot of gorgeous picturesque shots, and you see a lot of green farmlands, and the juxtaposition of that is they come to a stop to take a leak and take a break, and who is it? None other than Clayball himself, the cop that they had just talked about at the dinner table the night before, and you get sort of a firsthand experience of I don't know. It's just you see them in such a. In this point, I guess they're looking for the road by the bridge, right, or the road that they can't find.
Correct.
and sort of have gotten lost and take a break. And then this car rolls up, and then that's when sort of you can just feel something is happening, where the entire episode is about to really take off. And unfortunately, you see this cop really treat him like shit, and explain to them what a sundown county is, or what a sundown town is. And he says, well, we're not just a sundown town, we're a sundown county.
Yeah, which really upped it. I feel like, because it was like, for me, I didn't really understand sundown, because like, as they're alluding, like I've been saying, like they're alluding and they're saying, no, it's bad, it could be bad. And like, even the chase, for me, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Even though that's crazy, it's like, all right, that's, I've seen this before. That's not too much. But then as this comes on, I really love that this really, like you said, it really turns it, because it's like, we've seen bad stuff happen to Black people in TV shows and all this, but this feels truly sinister, like horrific, as it, like, this seems like, hey, if you're here when it goes dark, it's gonna get worse than like, oh, I'm offended by you being here. It's gonna be like, now, like, I'm gonna be an evil person and I want to do bad things to you. And I feel like that's the level that it really, like, I love that they set a tone for us to say, this is the level of evil that is like regular, even though it's like, that should be crazy. And as we looked at it, as they showed it to us, it was crazy. But then when they show this guy, it's like, okay, we realize there's another level. There's bad stuff. And then there's like, okay, we're being evil, like really, really evil as far as we can be type deal. And I love that really, like, it puts us in it. Really.
Absolutely. And sets it up to where it's going. And and then the evil gets much different. But yeah, I mean, that the whole scene of that car, he's just challenging him at every move. And, when Atticus sort of has the moment of like, all right, well, I'll speak up now, because quite frankly, you're at a, you know what I mean? Like you can feel his sort of, and then it turned, it's sort of like, about the U-turn, I guess, is what he's asking about. And like, are you just going to take at me when I do a U-turn? Which is like the steps. It's, I think if in the world of Black Lives Matter, and sort of the world that this is set, I hope it comes across as like, these are, what was I going to say? These are the, hold on one second. Let me catch my mind up to my. Oh, I had some relevant something. I guess my point was just seeing the question of, can I make a U-turn, is sort of for whatever reason, to me, is like, when you see that on a screen and being like, I am literally being controlled at every move, it's still relevant today to see someone dropping off a UPS package at somebody's door. And then you walk, like where I'm from, if someone drives by and it doesn't look like the person dropping it off, there's it's like, oh my God, is somebody breaking into the house? That's their automatic reaction. And it's sort of the same thing, where it's like very structured and I'm glad that you see like very step by step, as like, it doesn't matter what the fuck we're doing, we're in the wrong. You know what I mean?
See, that's the like, for me, I love that's not, they didn't, because it's, I think why I love stories is because, like, when we talk, sometimes people are smart, and they can get their points across well, but what they do is like, they just go straight to the point. And when you go straight to the point, it loses something. And that's why stories work so well, because like, they prime you. They give you that nice like bubble before the point is really presented, that like, you are primed to understand the point as it's supposed to be understood. And like, that's the thing. Like, I again identify with Atticus so much, because he knows the situation. Right. He knows I could die. Yeah. And the thing is, so many people probably haven't dealt with death in that way, especially Black people. So they encounter these white people and they want to be tough. They want to not give up their pride. They want to like do this and that, not thinking about, because they never really had to think about death. This guy Atticus has. So like he's always going to be all the way focused on how to get out of this situation. You could tell he's good at that type of thing. So it's like as he sits there and he's like, all right, he's going to let us do our thing. But I know, like, I love that, just like you said, the little U-turn thing is like, that's, and then his response to it. So he asked for the U-turn.
Oh, yeah.
And the response is not to be like, oh, yeah, I'll let you do a U-turn. It's like, we know what game we're playing here. That's where you really understood. Like, I feel like it, again, hits it harder, where it's like, this isn't, like you said, there's nothing you can do. We want
the right answer is always the wrong answer. It's like,
exactly. We want to mess with you, and we're going to mess with you. So there's nothing you can do.
And that all sort of comes to a head when they're racing out of the county, but to get, down before the sun goes down. And then again, spoilers, but they're racing out of town and they see the railroad tracks and they're going to make it, and they can't go over 25 miles per hour because even a mile per hour over, they're going to get pulled over again.
Such a good race.
Yeah. And then, as they sort of make it out, I think they just roll up on. Don't they just roll up on the? Or is there time in between that? I feel like
no. There's not. No, not much time at all. It's like literally they exhale, they get excited. We come from behind them, just up, and we see the boys ready. Right. That it's just like, and you know what's so funny? Because like as I was watching it today, I was like, you know what they probably did? It's like me just thinking that this is real. It's like to say as they were leaving, you know how like the car wasn't immediately behind them. I'm sure it's just the guy being like, yo, I'm chasing these people, just set up right over there. And then he comes around just slightly later. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then comes right up on them. Only like they think they were getting away type deal, but it was just enough time for him to set the trap for them.
Yeah.
It's again, over no matter
lose. You're always, it's like, but yeah, then that leads to sort of the darker points that we thought we would have avoided by getting out of the county, when they roll down and there's guys with shotguns and they're blocking the road, and and then it sort of goes into that whole sort of world of, all right, well, we've basically set you up to, what's going to happen. Like we know that, we know there's a reason we're walking you into the woods. There's a reason, you know what I mean? All of this is happening. It's not by coincidence that,
that's the best part. I feel like that's the best part. Cause it's like, it's as much like, again, we're talking, I love the way that they're putting this horror, because it's like, they're setting it up. Cause you're like, you're thinking to yourself, we already know, like, even though like, I'm not sure what was going to happen and then what they will allow us to see. So as this is happening, I'm thinking to myself, we know, they know, everybody knows what's going to happen, which is so fun. Like, it's not funny, but it's funny to think about that. Like, every single person in the audience, the characters, everybody is so aware of the evil and the bad, right? We're so aware that we're not even worried about anything else. And that is when we give you the real monsters. And that's what I love so much, because it's like right at the moment where we almost think it's overkill. Like, okay, yes, black people, like this, they're going to kill them. We really got to see this as after all of what we've been alluding to this whole entire time, and then real monsters.
Right. Yeah. And then those said monsters we see in full force of, being there, the sheriffs are accusing them of a robbery that happened to town over, or a break-in or something. And obviously there's nothing to do with it. And it's probably non-existent would be my guess. The whole thing itself. And then the other thing, the part of this, which also I think is relevant for today's police force, is that you see the young guy at the very beginning, or at the beginning of the conversation, be like, when they're walking, and he's like, well, you never know. Maybe even the car's stolen. You know what I mean? And he's like, good point, Timmy, or whatever the fuck his name is. Or it's like, again, you're not going to win. This is not set up for you to win in any shape or form. Because the right answer is always wrong for you, depending on who you are.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then it gets weird. I mean, you think something's going to happen, and then all of a sudden the Lovecraft portion of this starts to seep through the seams, and you see one of his, I guess it's one of his, like, I didn't really research as much into like I know all of his monsters have names, and
well, The thing about I agree, I'm totally with you, and the only reason I'm going to interrupt is because I just saw something that I was under the impression that all the monsters were Lovecraft monsters, but I don't think this one
really?
is. I think this one, um, I'm going to say, I think the monsters that they're going to do are going to be their own creation because they said I guess either the person that wrote the book or the screenplay, I'm not sure if they're the same person, but they modeled this monster after one of the monsters mentioned in Thriller.
In Thriller?
Wow. Yeah, because it was like because they say it's like a monster with like 40 eyes on it, or something like that, and like that was like one of the like. But
see, that's
I think it was Journey.
Sorry, that's the same reference that he makes in the beginning, though, about the monster in the woods. That monster that he says you gotta
is in the Lovecraft.
But that's the same monster.
That's what I wasn't sure.
Like, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, it looks like one of.
But I'm not sure.
It looks like one of the ones that he mentions with all the eyes, and but again, maybe it's. I don't know how much. I mean, it has Lovecraft in the name, but I don't know how much they.
The monster. See, the thing is, I know the monster that he kills in the very beginning is 100% a Lovecraft monster. I know that one is like the one that he hits the bat through.
In the what?
The Jackie Robinson hits the bat through in the beginning. That I know that monster is 100% a Lovecraft monster, and I was under the impression that all the ones I would see were, but I can't I don't want to misspeak, but I can't remember if it was Journey or one of the writers that said that that's where they got that from. But I did read that recently.
Yeah. The Kasog. The big one in the teaser is the Kasogtha. Kasogtha? I don't know. Cthulhu.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No idea.
The Shoggoth. That's the one he was talking about.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Shoggoth. Yes.
Which I think is the same sort of idea. A bunch of eyes. Yeah, it's tons of eyes, but this one's more tentacly. Anyway, we sort of get our first sort of late in the episode look at these things, and they start. Well, basically, they get led into the woods, and then they hear something, and then this monster starts attacking. And I don't think it's sort of attacking one person or the other. I think it's more of just they're just attacking, right? I didn't get a sense of
yes, that's 100%. Yeah, they just whatever's there, we're going after. And I feel like the only reason they didn't get any of our main characters is because they were laying on the ground, and there were a bunch of people standing up around them.
Yeah, the one dude gets his head eaten off.
As they come, exactly. As they come for obviously the people that are standing because that's all they think are there, and then they take off. I mean, so it's not much. It's just people getting eaten.
They at some point though they all realize sort of what's going down, and 3 of them's been eaten, and one of them is without a head, and then they decide they basically our heroes take off into a shack that is conveniently close, but which I guess is not convenient because it seems is that sort of where they're going to take them. See, I didn't get that either.
The thing is, I think honestly, from just like stories that I've heard, I feel like they were just gonna take them down there, probably shoot them and hang them in that area. I don't think they had anything to do with that shack at all. Just like in those types of woods, shacks like that, at least for me, especially going up in North Carolina, you would walk in the woods and there'd be tons of shacks. Like it's just like they're everywhere, even and always abandoned.
Right.
So I'm like, for me, I just feel like they are running around, and that wasn't too far off, the road since they took them there. That it's like, I'm sure somebody lives like very, very close to there, and they just so happen to find it.
It's great. This whole last few scenes are just really great, and they're all sort of blood covered and trying to survive. And then you it's great because you get I think 2 and 2. You get 2 because the uncle is left behind, but you get 2 heroes and 2 bad guys in the same space trying to fight this real bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of interesting. It was fun to hear the dialogue and hear that where it's like, hey, listen, this guy got bit and he's starting to turn into a fucking monster, sort of like vampires. Yeah. Maybe you should shoot your boss. And he's like, I can't,
Yeah. He's like, I don't know.
And then of course,
the
sheriff eats him, and I think he does get a couple shots off. But yeah, and then the car comes in. But anyway, yeah, it's I love the anime. I'm a big proponent. I hate when I've always sort of since the inception 25 years ago of real green screen and of real sort of CGI, which started out really bad.
Yeah.
This I thought looked amazing. I thought it looked really, really good.
Yeah, and I've heard that they got a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I feel like what I love, like again I said, like they really take the time with everything they do. So like I love that like everything, even though it's not like super like when the CGI comes, it's like, whoa, this TV show's got super high value. I feel like when you watch those moments, but like even before that, you can see the subtle use that really highlights those things. So when I see all the CGI, it's like it takes nothing away from it, because the way that it's shot before, it's picturesque in its own way. You know what I mean? And they've already alluded to these pictures. You know what I mean? It's real, but it's not so real that like when things are crazy, we get taken out of it, which I love. It's like when they get crazy, we're just here in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to be taken out of it, and that's what I felt the problem. I mean, a lot of the stuff from the early 2000s, late 90s, like was just fucking horrible. And obviously, there's exceptions, like 80s, 90s, like Star Wars stuff, like that. I was all the whole different thing. But TV green screen has come a long way from where it was.
Yeah, that is very true.
They do find out at some point that light will make them sort of retract into themselves. Like at one point, she turns on the headlights when so Letitia goes to, I guess, what did she do? Go to get help? Go to get her uncle?
Well, the thing was that, like you said, they remembered the cars, right? And I can't remember if she went to go get I don't think she went to go get the uncle. I think he found his way back, because they go to say, like, Tick and her have a moment where they're like, she's like, I gotta go get this car. So if I go get this car, then we can do the light thing. Type deal. I feel like that's what she was trying to say. Yeah, it did work. But again, to go over, just like when she was driving them out of away from the town, she's saving the day again. And I love that. Like, this show is like, as much as Tick is smart, as much as the George has experience, the underestimation of Letitia works in her favor a lot, because she's super capable. And I love that we are immediately seeing how capable she is, because she's always like, as soon as like the problem gets literally to be too much, it's like, this is way too much for any rational or any of the structures that we hold regular to handle. And I love that immediately she's like, they look to her like, hey, and she's like, yeah. And then she goes and does it. Like, she's just like, she says that prayer that she says she's never said before, or maybe she doesn't mention that yet. But she says this prayer, and then she goes, and she just like, it's just like pure power. For me, like, as a Black person, I always, like, the biggest thing for me in movies and TV is running. Like, the way actors run is so important to me, because, like, I think it's something that a lot of actors take for granted sometimes, because it's like, they take like the movements of certain actions because of the character a certain way, but running goes that same way, and you see sometimes actors just running as they are, not as a character. And I always notice that and really, really like look at that, because I think it's a big thing. And the way that she's running is just like, it's just so determined.
Her life is depending on it.
So exactly. It's so determined. So like, and there's like, the monsters as she's running are like almost as, like as like almost an out, like a metaphor, I guess, to like a woman's life, is like, as she's running through these things, the monsters are there. You know what I mean? They're not like, she's not just running and like thinking about monsters. Like, they're like running because they're fast. They're running right next to her, like coming at her type deal. And she's having to deal with this as she's running, getting to where she gets to. And I feel like that just felt like a real powerful moment, at least to me, like in all the mess of monsters running around and all this stuff. We really see her take hold of herself and of the moment, and just be like, the belief in herself further than anything else. Because really at this moment, she like, nothing makes sense. The world doesn't make sense.
Well, she did say she's
track in high school, herself. So. Exactly. So she knew that she could run, but it's just like, it's almost like, I guess if we get to like how Tick feels, it's like, when you get into these moments, it's just, we let our body do what it's supposed to do and try to keep our head as clean as possible. And that's what I feel like she did. And she got it done. And it was a joy to watch.
Yeah. Actually, before that, when she turns the lights on for the first time and the thing just burrows into the ground, I thought was very well done.
Insane.
Very well done. And then, sort of the after that, when they get into the house, it gets a little crazy. But basically, it ends with them at sort of the peak of they're by themselves. The cops have been sort of eradicated by these monsters, and they're throwing out flares, and this beautiful shot, and this big wide shot of them sort of like, are we going to live or die? And then all of a sudden you hear a whistle, and they all just go away. And then, at that point, they walk to this mysterious house where this silver bullet car is parked outside of, and then it sort of starts making a little more sense, and there's a little tease for the next episode. But all in all, really, really great. I'm psyched to watch the rest, and I'm psyched to talk about the rest with you. I think there was a lot of angles on this that I especially like. Plight of the Black woman in a lot of this, and a lot of in the 50s and stuff like that I would never have thought of, or it just didn't register to me. You know what I mean? Even the running to the car. And
that's what I feel like. Because for me, this is why I like to talk to people about it, because it's like, for me, this is the stuff that I look at, but I know like other people look at other things and they'll see it differently. But I also just want to say, because I've seen the second episode, there's a lot that I felt like in the first episode was just like blanket stuff, kind of to give not really much context, just to like kind of filler. But I'm gonna tell you, like, all of this really hits home, and it's like it was tough doing this and not mentioning some things.
Yeah, well, part of me wanted to do two at a time,
nice.
But yeah, I'm glad. And we've sort of we've done a 2-hour review of this, but yeah, so. I think it's well worth it, and I'm psyched that you would come do this. Do you want to plug any music stuff or anything before we get out of here?
Well, on SoundCloud, North South, it's a / between the North and the South.
Okay.
You can find that on Tidal. You can find it on any streaming service, and on SoundCloud, there's pretty much everything I've ever done. On Tidal and Apple Music, it's more condensed and like.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm there.
Awesome. And what's your socials?
Basamillion, BASA million. It's all one word, and that's Twitter, Instagram, and all that. Yeah.
Give him a look and tell us what you think or what you thought of Sundown, the first episode of Lovecraft Country, and we'll be back to talk about the second one soon. Sebastian, thank you so much, man. That was so much fun.
Thank you.
See you for the second. Going Dork stars and is produced by me, Jeremy Balin. For more information on the show, visit goingdork.com and find us on all the socials as Going Dork. We are a part of the Seltzer Kings family of podcasts. For more information on them, check out seltzerkings.com. And if you want to continue the conversation, give me a shout on my socials at Remy Balin on most things, at Jeremy Balin on the Instagram. Thanks for listening.